first year students, my colleagues, our chairman and distinguished alumni. Sorry for the little delay in coming over. We had a short interview session of our chief guest by the media people, and following that we were showing them around the campus. But anyway, now that we're all here, we'll start quickly. I believe some of you have questions to ask. So whoever has questions, be it regarding general industry, about the economy, about Cognizant, about the IT sector, about your career planning, you are free to raise your hands and ask. So can I see some hands going up? Okay, ladies first. I think this lady has raised a hand. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Pratusha, and I would like to ask you, what are all the most important skills you consider as important for a leader, and who is your inspiration?
There are a lot of traits a leader needs to have, right? One is, as I was mentioning in my graduation day address, also is the teamwork is very, very essential. In any job that you're going to be performing, whether it is in the IT industry or any other industry, I think teamwork is very, very essential. And the second thing is patience and perseverance. It's very important. I remember when I joined the IT career, people never used to stick around in a job for more than 2 years, because there was always another job that's paying maybe 1,000 rupees more. People will just quit and join that company. But what I have seen in successful leaders in any industry is they would have served an organization and moved up the career ladder at least for 5 years, maybe 10 years, and more successful leaders would have spent longer time. You take any company that you know of and you look at the CEO of the company, he or she will not be a person who would have jumped from one job to another job every 2 years. They have to have proved themselves in an organization for a little bit longer period of time. Yeah, the career may not shape up the way you want it as fast as you would like it to be, but if you are patient and if you really put in a hard work and smart work, I'm sure you will be rewarded in your career. So for anybody to be successful, you need to have that patience and perseverance and prove your ability by sticking to one organization at least for a considerable period of time. So that's another important trait for a leader. And third is, I think, you should be a lot more open-minded, right? If you are very closed, then you are not going to see the opportunities that are around you, right? So you need to be very receptive, very open. The best ideas, you don't know where it's going to come from. It may come from the junior most person in the organization, right? So you should be very open-minded, very receptive to new ideas. Then you can build on those ideas and make the whole organization to be successful. So a good leader will be a lot more open and receptive to newer ideas. Those are I would say, the top 3 that come to my mind as an essential trait or traits of a successful leader. And I have seen this in many leaders that I have come across in my own career.
Who's your inspiration? That was another, your role model.
There are a lot of people, I still admire, Kohli. I don't know, you may not have heard. He's
the father of Indian IT.
Father of the IT industry in India. Why I admire him is because, he is so versatile as an individual. He's not just knowledgeable about the technology and the IT industry. Any topic, whether it is politics or power, agriculture, anything, he will have an opinion and he will substantiate why he is thinking, because he is so well read. I really admire people who are very well read, right? So if I want to leave an advice with all of you, I think Mr. Ramasamy also mentioned in his address, right? Learning never stops, right? What you have learned in TSM is actually learn to learn, right? So the learning comes with a lot of reading, right? I'll tell you, many of the students in current generation don't read that much. If you're not reading and you're equipping yourself with what's happening, right, then you are not equipping yourself to be successful, right? So why I admire Kohli even from my early days of my career is it's mainly because he's so well read. On any topic, he can talk for hours. And so that's a quality you admire in people. So my advice to you is also, read, dedicate at least an hour every day to read something outside your own books and what you need to learn in the college, right? So learning is reading is a very, very important, aspect of shaping your own personality. And it really broadens your horizon, and that really helps you to be a lot more open. Develop that skill consciously. It doesn't come automatically, and it's not easy.
Thank you. I fully
How
echo.
How many of you read, consciously read, outside of your own textbook? Be honest. I'm not going to wait for more hands to raise. Actually, I saw only one hand that came up instantaneously, right? But it is an important, take it from me, start today. Dedicate 1 hour just to read, whether it's newspaper, magazines, anything.
I'll just take a moment. I fully echo Mr. Chandrasekaran's thoughts, both as an ex-industry man and as an academician. You see, reading has somehow become discounted, but you cannot pick up general information, general knowledge unless you read. And when one is saying reading, it doesn't necessarily have to be a book. It can be iBooks now, in electronic books, like you can read on Kindle. You can read up any amount that you want on any subject under the earth by Googling. All that is reading. But please do some reading. And if you're on the Google or on the internet in the evenings, let me once again request you, the internet at night doesn't necessarily mean YouTube. Okay, please do some genuine reading, because I can monitor indirectly how many people are on YouTube. The slowness of my internet access is directly proportional to the number of people that are on YouTube. Okay, I'm not very far away from you. But for your own sake, not for our sakes, please do some reading. It will be good for your career. Right.
YouTube also has a lot of good things to read.
But that's not what you are on. Okay, question number 2. Let's see us get some other hands. Okay, once again a lady. Okay, right. Let's hear your question. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, sir. I'm Susan Chandy from first year MBA. My question is what is the greatest piece of advice that you were given and which impacted your career development?
No, can you repeat the question?
The greatest piece of advice that you were given which impacted your career development.
I have given?
You were given.
I received. Oh, sorry. Okay. I don't know whether people have advised me what I should do. These are some things that you learn by observing the people around you. And I don't think I can say that this is what you should do. I can't think of any advice that I have received. But I do learn by looking at other successful people around you. Whether it is, in fact, even in my own company, I learn a lot just by walking around the office and talking to people, right? Because nowadays they say the younger you are, the better it is actually in terms of knowledge, because you all have a lot more knowledge than probably what I have learned in my days, right? So I think just talking to people, interacting with them, that itself is a big learning exercise. So I don't know whether I have received any specific advice, but I'll tell you one piece of advice I did receive when I was doing MBA, right? We used to have the organizational behavior course, and Professor S.K. Roy used to teach organizational behavior course.
The father of that eminent gentleman? No, that is Chaudhary. That is Chaudhary.
No,
Arindam Chaudhary's father.
And I wanted to really have a personal counseling session with him, and he, my attitude before that was, I always wanted to be appreciated by others, right? Unless others appreciate, I never thought whatever I do was right or wrong. I always used to judge myself by what others think of what I was doing, right? All my decisions were based on whether somebody else is going to appreciate what I was doing. I was never doing things that would satisfy me, right? I was always doing things that would, get the appreciation of others. And actually he told me, you have to live for yourself. You have to live to prove what you believe in. Don't look at for others' appreciation. That may come, that may not come, but as long as you do things that you enjoy doing, you do things that you believe in, I think that's the best thing. I think that was one advice I still stand, it's still firmly etched in my mind actually. I still do that.
Okay. Carol, there's a question from you, I think. I'll read out the question for you because you may not be clearly audible. I'll read it out for you. Carol's question is, in Times of India 1st January edition, I read that 2013 will not be a good year for Indian IT industry. The estimated export growth rate has dropped to 11% from 16% last year. What are the factors which you attribute to this situation, and do you think the IT industry can make a swing back?
Actually, I don't know whether you have seen the most recent projection by NASSCOM, which is the Industry Association for IT. So they have projected a growth of 12 to 14%, and last year the industry grew by 10.5%. So that says it all. This 2013 or 2013-14, that financial year, is going to be a lot better than what it was in 2012-13. But the important thing about this industry is it's a matured industry, right? And the size also is big now. It's a $110 billion industry. So we were growing at 25% when we were probably 50 billion, 60 billion. Now we are double that size, so the growth rate would come down, but in absolute terms, the industry continues to grow faster than the earlier years, and the next year is going to be a lot better than last year. So that's the projection, and that's probably reflected in the company earnings also. Most of the companies came out with their earnings in the last, I would say, 3-4 weeks, and many of the leading players have reported well. A couple of leading players have not reported too well, but the growth is there, and it's expected to be a lot better than last year. And it's not just what you read publicly. There is also a lot more interest for major corporations around the world to set up their own captive operation in India. So you may not read about it in the newspaper, but that type of activity is also happening quite a lot in the IT industry. So I feel things are looking up for the IT industry.
Just one question. When you talked about the growth rate of 12 to 14% or whatever, is it on nominal basis or real basis after correcting for inflation?
No, it's actual dollars.
It's on dollar, just the dollar basis.
Yeah, it's a dollar basis.
But not correcting for inflation.
No, not correcting for inflation.
Okay. Where's Rahul Dharmaraja? Okay, there's a question. I'll read it out for you once again. This is again on the IT industry. During the last quarter of the last financial year, that is 2012-13, TCS, ACL performed well and Infosys didn't do well. What about CTS performance? I think now it's only Cognizant, it's no more CTS.
Right, yeah.
And what are your future plans to survive and sustain your growth rate in the current volatile economy?
Okay. I think, as I said, in the industry, some companies have done very well, continue to do very well. Some are not doing that well. Probably, they will all see some kind of a turnaround in their own companies. But as far as Cognizant is concerned, we are all very proud that we are the leaders in the industry in terms of growth, right? We have been the fastest growing IT services company ever since we started in 1994. That track record that we continue to maintain, even as late as last quarter, right? So even as we look at the next year, we expect this to be better than 2012-13, and that's how our growth has been projected internally. So we'll see where we end up, but we are quite optimistic about the outlook for the industry, more so for Cognizant as an organization. So we continue. Our objective within Cognizant is to be the fastest growing company in the industry. And that track record we have maintained till date, and we hope to maintain in future too.
Okay. Where's Bharat? There's a question from Bharat. Okay, I'll read out your question. Bharat's question is, again, IT and Cognizant. What are Cognizant's core competencies and competitive advantages, and how does it plan to sustain them in this current highly competitive scenario?
Then I'll have to make my corporate presentation actually. No, there are a lot of things that, we are probably the youngest company in the industry, with the size that we are currently. Being younger, as I said, has its own advantage. We didn't have much legacy. We learned probably from others' mistakes. And there are a lot of things that we did very differently from the very early days of our inception. Our focus on the industry domain, in addition to technology, really helped us to differentiate ourselves in the marketplace. So customers view Cognizant as lot more, business-oriented technology service provider, right? So the business orientation is the biggest differentiator. And the second is we not only focused on our delivery, building the capacity in India to deliver services, we focused a lot on customer. Ultimately, if the customers don't have confidence in you, if the customers don't have a good relationship with Cognizant, they're not going to trust you with more and more project opportunities. So we focused a lot on working closely with customers and trying to be proactive in understanding their business needs. That really helped us to do the right things for the customer. That really led to a lot more opportunities. So focus on customers was another key differentiator in our evolution. And third thing which I would say is very important is, we were not spreading ourselves too thin. Our approach and philosophy within the company is whatever you do, be the best, right? And don't focus, if you do multiple things, you're not going to be good in everything, right? Take up some narrow list of things that you feel you can excel and ensure that you excel and differentiate yourself and be the leader in the industry. Once you are successful and establish yourself and take on some other thing where you can invest, focus and build that to be a successful business operation. So the focus is another thing I would say has helped us to grow the business faster in the chosen areas that we wanted to specialize, right? So the focus, I think as a company, as individuals, it's very, very important. You cannot, if you try to do too many things at the same time, probably you will be a jack of all, but you're not going to be a master of anything, right? So the focus and dedication is very, very essential to, it's applicable for organization, it's applicable for individuals. So that's another thing I think has helped us to be a lot more successful than the peers in the industry.
I think that's a very important message for all of you. Mr. Chandrasekaran talked about focus. He also talked about, in his response to the first question, that you should not be job hoppers. You should, stay put in a particular place for a few years. So while in the business it is about customer focus, you're focusing on a particular vertical or a particular country. For you, it may be functional focus. It may also be sectoral focus. Stick to one particular vertical. All verticals, are growing in India, whether you talk of FMCG or consumer durables or hospitality or IT or whatever. They're all growing. Stick to a company. Do well over there. And then when you feel probably you have reached a saturation stage, you may look for a job. Maybe you can build up your career in the same company. There are many people who have done that and they have been very, very successful. But I think for all of you, focus is one of the key messages that's coming from Mr. Chandrasekaran. Okay, the next question. Okay, this is about H1B visas. I think that's also very relevant. This is from Ratna Janani. Where is she? Yeah. Her question is, what are your views on US restrictions on H1B visas? How will it affect the IT business in the long run? And more specifically, how is Cognizant going to confront this challenge?
Even the media person didn't ask me that question, actually. It's a tough one that we are battling with. The most, I don't know whether you're referring to the most recent the bill that has been introduced in the US Senate. Are you referring to that, or in general you're talking about H1? In general. Then I'm disappointed. You should have read the most recent one. The US is trying to curb and put a lot more restrictions on generally people to come there and work on visas, right? So as an industry, we are, we are working with many of the lobbying firms to really amend that bill so that, it will be modified before it becomes a law in the US. So as an industry association, we are taking up that case to make it easier for, companies from India to work, send people and make them work in the US. And we also strongly believe that it will affect the trade relationship between India and US, if these restrictive clauses become a law, right? So we are also taking it up with the government of India and our Finance Minister P. Chidambaram was in the US a couple of weeks ago. So we also conveyed through him. We also have been conveying through our Prime Minister's office at the government level to ensure that those restrictions are not enacted into the law in the US. So in short, we do expect these types of restrictions to come in place, but the industry, the IT industry still has a compelling value proposition. I am sure many of the US corporations who are actually leveraging the capability in India have benefited a lot. So we expect they will also prevail upon the government in the United States not to put those restrictions. So we hope that those restrictions will go away. But having said that, I don't think we should just be dependent on only H-1B visa. We should try to develop indigenous capabilities. That's why in my graduation day address also, there are a lot of opportunities within India, right? The challenges that customers face in India are of significantly different order of magnitude, right? So if we can solve the problems in the domestic market, we will have a world-class solutions that others will come to us, and take those. We don't have to go to them for seeking business. They will come to us for the knowledge and capability that we are developing locally, right? Because as I said, if you can solve India's problems, we can solve the world's problem, right? That's how it is. So we should really lot more focus, and India is a land of opportunities. Right? How many other economies in the world are growing at 6%, 7%, right? So we should really start focusing on our own backyard and develop world-class solutions, products, which will be much sought after in the world. That's how we should elevate ourselves rather than just focusing on the Western market.
In this context, I have got a question, probably taking off from what they are saying. You see, Indian IT companies have mostly been in what is called IT services. They are more or less like the tailors for the IT sector. Now, which do you think is the way forward, not what has happened, but going forward? Would it be IT products oriented, like say, for example, Oracle is RDBMS, Microsoft is essentially computer software, SAP is about ERP and so on. Would it be continuing with IT services, or would it be shifting to IT enabled services, which is also referred to as BPO, KPO and things like that? Which is really, do you think, the way forward?
I think, if I look at the evolution of IT services from India, I see a shift happening from purely manpower based services industry to lot more IP driven services industry. So if I go and solve a customer's problem, the earlier approach would be have a team of 10 people, 15 people to develop an application for a particular customer. But the industry has matured so much in the last several years. There is a lot of inherent knowledge and expertise that we all have gained as companies, as industry. I think a lot of companies are investing in creating a platform, right, to encapsulate the best practices and the knowledge that we have gained over a period of time. And it may not be a shrink wrap product that you go and sell it to a customer, but you create a basic platform which you can customize for a specific customer requirement. So earlier 100% of the application used to be developed from scratch. Today we have probably 60% of the application already pre-built, and then the remaining 40% you will actually customize it for a specific customer. So there's going to be a lot more IP leveraged service delivery.
What is IP in this context? IP?
Intellectual property.
Okay.
So intellectual property that we will invest and create. So that way the industry itself will move up several notches in terms of the value that we create for customers. And that is going to be a lot more respected by customers around the globe. And there is a company called IPsoft, right? I don't know how many of you have heard. They have actually, it's promoted by Indians. Some of them are living in the US, but they have jointly worked with IIT Madras in creating a rules engine, which is actually a self-learning platform. So, in our own services, we do remote infrastructure management, right? And that means many of you have seen data centers, right? And you run production jobs, and somebody will have to monitor these production jobs whether they are running properly, right? So If you go to a data center, you will see several monitors outside like a control room, and people will be physically looking at the monitors and see if something is going wrong, right? So it really, today you do it with a lot more people. In fact, since you're so tired of looking at the monitor, they used to have another person as a redundant person to look at the monitor and ensure that the jobs are going well. That's how the services are delivered today. But with IPsoft, that is completely eliminated. The system is going to monitor the job, and it will probably send you an alert if something goes wrong, right? And it's a sort of a self-learning engine. So if once you encounter some problems, automatically the next time it knows how to fix the problem, or it sends you a different alert, right? So it's a self-learning engine. So things like that are being developed jointly with academic institutions as well as within the R&D wings of individual companies. So there's a lot more thought leadership, intellectual property development that's happening, and that's a shift which is good for the industry. I hope more and more such things will happen, and that will actually elevate the image about the IT services industry from India. So focus should be a lot more on innovation and intellectual property development.
What about the IT-enabled services space, BPOs, KPOs, and things like that?
That will continue to be there, right? And that's also becoming a lot more specialized. Now, I think gone are the days where you're just running a call center or a data entry, right? Today, for example, even in Cognizant, we hire doctors and nurses to do some healthcare process. Supposing there is a healthcare insurance claim to be settled. So somebody will have to really look at the validity of the claim. So that requires healthcare knowledge. Actually, we have doctors who can look at the claims and then say, okay, this is a valid claim, this is not a valid claim, right? So there are a lot of opportunities even for professionals to come into this services industry and really move up the value chain in terms of what we can deliver to our customers around the globe. So there are a lot of opportunities even in the business process solutions space.
Okay, the next question is, this I think is a very, very relevant question. Berlin Ryan, is he here? Okay, why don't you ask the question yourself?
Good afternoon, sir. My question is, what are the expectations of industry from managers?
I think I already alluded to this earlier. A good manager is a good team player, right? You cannot be an autocrat or authoritarian, right? You need to really encourage your team members to come up with ideas. If you are very strict and then you expect the follow the order type of an approach, nobody is going to come to you with new ideas, right? So a good manager is the person who listens to others, who really appreciates somebody else's idea and encourages and promotes innovation within your own team, right? So that's number one. Second is, as I said, you cannot be successful as an individual. So if you need to be a good manager, you need to really promote teamwork within your own teams, right? So without teamwork, you can never be successful in any industry, not just IT. In any industry, you can never be successful. So teamwork, I keep emphasizing that, it's very important. Third is communication, right? If you are not able to communicate effectively to your own teams or to your customers or within your own organization, you're not going to be an effective leader. So you have to communicate very well. The art of communication, I was talking to Dr. Ghosh earlier, this is not something that can be taught in a college. You have to consciously practice in terms of how freely and efficiently you are able to communicate with each other. So communication skills are very, very important. I would say that's a fundamental requirement for you to be a successful professional, right? So you need to develop good communication skills. So teamwork, communication skills, receptive to ideas are all important things for a successful manager.
If I elaborate this question a bit more specifically, when you recruit fresh MBAs or maybe with 1 or 2 years experience, to what extent do you look for these particular aspects and vis-a-vis some of the hard aspects like his academic record or his ability to answer questions on his academic domain and so on and so forth.
You know, at whatever level we hire, right, you know, the first and foremost thing that we look for is the ability to communicate.
In English, I presume.
In English, yeah, of course, right, and because that's a universal language, right? Because today you may be working in Chennai, tomorrow you may be posted overseas or another location within India, right? If you're not able to communicate with each other, right, you're not going to be effective in any organization. Can you be successful without talking to your friend? So how can you, you know, how do you build relationship? By very open, free communication, right? If you're not able to express yourself freely, you will never be successful. So one of the traits that we look for, whether we hire graduates from engineering or hire from business schools, is the communication. Even when we go for interview, our approach is, we all assume that you are from good institution, you would have the basics in terms of whatever you needed to learn. We assume that you have that. But on top of it, we look for, are you able to communicate? Right? If you don't have good communication skills, we don't hire those individuals. Because in a lighter way, I tell people, you know, we can teach them Java and COBOL and whatever language you need to know, but we cannot teach people English once you join us. Right? So that's a basic requirement for anybody to even enter an organization like Cognizant.
I think this is a very important message. You know, we have been highlighting it, but now you're getting it from somebody who's a doyen in industry. See, this communication skills and more specifically skills in English are very important, because you're not going to be in you know, Chennai or Madurai all the time. Please keep this in mind. And language is not something which you can learn suddenly when you join a company. It comes slowly. You know, it is an experiential thing. It is not like picking up a chapter in a maths textbook. You read it, try to understand, solve a few problems, and you have got some working knowledge of that particular area of maths. It's not like that. So again, my exhortation to all of you is that at least when you are in the campus, whether it is in the hostels or whether it is in the college, classrooms, library, please speak in English. That is, you know, you are going to do yourself a lot of good. It is not for us, right? And I cannot emphasize this more. Having said this, let me also tell you, this is more or less, you know, at least pan-Indian. So it's not that you are particularly at fault. I am from Calcutta. There I used to tell people, don't talk in Bengali or Hindi. Hindi is very popular there, right? So it's the same thing. Here I am just replacing Bengali / Hindi by Tamil. But the basic process remains the same. You must improve your articulating skills in English. That's very important, right? Okay.
Actually, it's a very unique problem that we have. You know, we operate out of 10 cities in India, but I see this as a problem even in Cognizant, in Chennai and Calcutta, right? In Calcutta, people tend to speak only in Bengali in the office. And if you come to Chennai, people try to communicate only in Tamil, right? I don't know what it is. And we discourage that in the organization consciously.
I suppose if it is Delhi, you would say they are all speaking in Hindi or Punjabi Hindi.
But actually, if you go to Bangalore or Pune or Delhi, you know, you find the environment to be very different.
More cosmopolitan. I think it's more true, and I think, you know, maybe Tamilians and Bengalis have a lot in common. I think so.
Actually, it's a serious thing. You know, I want you all to be very, very conscious about it. You know, today, if China is as good as India in English, right, they would be far ahead of us in the IT industry. It's just their inability to communicate in English is preventing a lot of opportunities to go there, right? That's in addition to other issues that are there with China, but fundamental thing is they are not able to communicate well in English, right? But I see the quality of communication going down in India, right? So much so, there are a lot of BPO companies, they are now actually shifting to Philippines because the quality of spoken English is a lot better in Philippines than it is in India. So you see actually jobs moving away from India is because if you want to serve the Western world, you need to really have good, you know, spoken language communication skills. It's a fundamental requirement for individuals to be successful, companies to be successful, industry to be successful.
I had a question on this, maybe you would be the best person to answer. Is it true that more recently, maybe in the last 3 to 4 years, Philippines, or which means basically Manila, has overtaken India as the call center of the world.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of call center jobs have moved to Manila. It's
There
mainly
you are.
because, yeah.
So you see, and that is again a lot about language skills. Please understand. Though mind you, Philippines is smaller than any of the medium or large size states of India, including Tamil Nadu perhaps. That's a fact. Okay, we'll go on to the next question. Right, this is on the general economy for a change. This is from Sakti Sundar. Where are you? Right, I'll read out your question. What are your expectations on India's economic position by around 2020? And I'll just elaborate a bit. What are your more near-term expectations? Say, let's say going forward from 2013 to maybe 2016, 3-year scenario, and then maybe let us say 7 to 10-year scenario.
I wish I have a crystal ball to make a prediction, but even the government guys, all the economists are fighting what is going to be the growth rate for the current fiscal year. So I cannot hazard a guess what it's going to be by 2020. But if you really look at the macro aspects of our economy, it's all pointing in the right direction, right? The number of people between the age of 28 to 60, is probably the most in the world in India, right? That says a lot about the middle class, right, which has the enormous buying power, right? And the intellectual, the number of people who are in the working age population is the maximum in India, right? That augurs well for the next 15, 20 years. So that is number one. Second is, the investment in education, some of the sunrise industry like IT, automobile sector, these will continue to grow as the buying pattern actually increases in India. So there will be a lot more economic activity in India that itself will spur further growth for the economy in India. That's number two. And number three is actually worldwide people will also look at India as a hotbed for marketing their own products and services. So that will actually attract a lot more foreign investment in India. Now we are talking about foreign direct investment in insurance and retail sector. So you will see a lot more investment happening from global corporations in India. That will again further create economic activity. So if you really look at all the macro aspects, things are looking very good for India, right? But our growth is going to be sort of limited by our own misgivings, whether it is the political environment or the work ethic and things like that, right? If we have the discipline of what China has, we can be a lot better than China is today, right? So we will see how it goes, but all the indicators are that the Indian economy will continue to thrive in the next several years.
Okay. This is a question now moving over from pure IT or economics to NASSCOM. You are the new vice chairman of NASSCOM. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sooner or later, you will be probably taking over as the head of NASSCOM. What are your focus areas?
There are several things. One is, I'm personally also actively involved in promoting the global trade. Some of the things that I talked about, the visas and things like that. So working with the government to government, establishing the right forum for promoting global trade. So that's an important agenda for NASSCOM so that the industry is, well represented around the globe. So that's number one. The second is looking internally within India. One of the things that we all worry about is the inclusive growth, right? Inclusive growth, we don't want the industry to be developing only in large cities. We also need to really look at, spreading this industry to tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities. How do you really create a local ecosystem that can sustain the growth of these cities beyond the larger metro cities that currently this industry is predominantly present. So inclusive growth is another important agenda. So much so NASSCOM is actually conducting, is actually taking up a lot of initiatives to promote this industry even in remote places like Assam and more recently in Jammu and Kashmir, so that it will create job opportunities. That itself may solve a lot of the local problems. So seriously looking at inclusive growth. And third is, enhancing the employability. Today we are not short of engineers or we are not short of MBAs, right? But as per NASSCOM's research, only about 25–30% of the graduates are readily employable by the industry, which is not really good. We graduate about 400,000 engineers or IT literates every year.
I think it's more than that now.
Right. And if you are imagining only about 25% of them are employable, so what do we do with the remaining 300,000 graduates? It may create a lot of social problems. So NASSCOM as an industry is working with academic institutions in terms of creating a curriculum and really setting up finishing schools so that make those graduates become more and more employable. So employability is another important thing that NASSCOM is working with academic institutions. So hopefully that will pay rich dividends, and that will actually create a lot more bandwidth in the industry for us to sustain the growth that we need. So those are the three important agenda items that we are working as far as the industry is concerned. And the industry also has become very large, right? Earlier it used to be a very sort of a homogeneous group because all the companies did the same thing, right? But today the industry has become so large, there are a lot of specialization happening, right? There are companies that are focusing on niche products. Now I heard that Zoho is another company that's actually actively
They are a very looked after company.
Right. They are a very, very unique company. They are leveraging cloud to offer CRM services. They specialize in CRM, right? So there is a lot of specialization happening. There are a lot of entrepreneurial venture that is creating. So NASSCOM has got an agenda to have 10,000 startups in the next 1 year, right? So they want to really set up incubation centers. And so there are a lot of things that NASSCOM is doing to create very niche, specialization within the IT industry. So as I said, even as individuals, you need to really look at a lot more specialization. Generalists will not be successful, given the, deeper understanding that the customers are demanding of their partners. So specialization is very important. So NASSCOM as an industry is also working towards specialization and helping individuals who are specializing a lot more rather than just serving it as an umbrella body.
Okay, next question. Neeraja, you had a question? You can read it out. And you are talking about his personal life or his corporate life, his professional?
There are, I won't say challenges. At sometimes you feel frustrated, right? I am the person who's an eternal optimist, right? I don't think bad about everything, but I always look at the brighter side. So I'll tell you, my first job after engineering was Ashok Leyland. So I was there for about 3.5 years, working as part of their R&D
post IM or
post engineering. Post engineering.
Okay.
So I felt, maybe I don't know what I would have ended up if I continued in Ashok Leyland. So there was a point in time when I felt maybe I should do something different. I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? But I really wanted to do something different. So got into IIM, right? Even when I graduated from IIM, I was not sure that IT industry was not my first choice. It's not that, but it's just that TCS came for campus recruitment. They gave me the maximum salary, so I jumped on. They recognized my Ashok Leyland experience, so that was the reason I jumped on to TCS, right? But my approach is, seize the opportunities that's out there. And if you do well in whatever opportunity that you're working on, then success will just come after you, right? So I don't go after things, but I really seize every opportunity that's out there. Even within TCS, there are a lot of opportunities. I worked in some special areas in Mumbai, then I had an opportunity to go to London and work on some projects, did very well, came back, then they asked me to go to US. So I seized every opportunity that came my way and really worked hard to be successful in those. if you ask me whether that was the one that I was seeking, no. Was Cognizant something that I sought after? No. It just came. It so happened that I happened to be in Chennai when my son was born, and I met Lakshmi, and then he said, I want to come over. The next day I was here, right? So it is just that opportunities present themselves. You know, it's an individual drive and initiative to seize those opportunities and be successful. And that's what I follow even today.
Could you talk about something in this context in your professional, in the sense that some challenges which Cognizant has faced and which you surmounted and where you played a key role?
I think, you know, since I have been associated with Cognizant since inception, you know, we have learned, having been associated with this industry prior, we've always wanted to be different. One of the philosophy within Cognizant is never be an also ran company, right? So try to always differentiate yourself in whatever you do, right? So when we looked at, you know, how do you organize yourself? You know, because any industry you like, it's always competitive. If you're not able to differentiate yourself, you're not going to be successful. So when we wanted to organize ourselves, you know, if I looked at TCS in those days, they were organized along the technology lines. You know, Chennai was the mainframe center, Calcutta was a digital center, Delhi was a Unix center, Bombay was Burroughs specialization, right? And we looked at Infosys, they were organized along the geography lines, right? You know, Bangalore was US, Pune was, I think, some other, you know, geography, Europe center, I think. So they were more distributed along the geography lines. But we said, hey, we are going to be different. We wanted to align along the customer's business, right? So industry specialization was the axis that we chose to differentiate ourselves, right? So I don't know whether you call it as a challenge, but we always looked at the ways that we can differentiate ourselves, right? I think if you are bold enough to take those steps, take risks and differentiate yourself, you will be successful, right? Even in the way we evolved as an organization, we have always been a contrarian in the industry, right? In '94 when we started in Chennai. You know, Chennai was not known for IT in those days. You know, it was either Bangalore. Bangalore was the most preferred destination. But we wanted to be different, start in Chennai because there are good education system there. We were able to get good talent. And when we moved away from Chennai, the first city that we chose was actually Calcutta. You know, in those days people used to ask why Calcutta. Even now people ask why Calcutta. But Calcutta, as I was telling Ghosh, is one of the successful operations for Cognizant. Right? So you have to differentiate yourself. If you have the herd mentality, you will be one of the herd, right? One in the herd. So you will never be viewed differently. You're not going to distinguish yourself. So always look for trying to be different, trying to excel in whatever you do.
I think that's again a very good, very important message for all of you. You see, in your own lives, not just in your corporate life, you'll have to see how you can differentiate yourself from your peer group, from maybe your contemporaries, not only in your company, elsewhere, who are competing for the same jobs or for the same promotions, right? You're probably going to join large companies which will have many executives at more or less your level, from different B schools, from different backgrounds and so on. So what is it that you are putting on the table which your employer will value more than maybe what your peer or your competitor in the professional sense is putting on the table? And that is something which you have to identify and chalk out on your own. And arising from this, you see there are two dimensions. One is how you differentiate yourself. Are you very good in your job? You know your job thoroughly. Are you very good in team skills, in communications? Of course, mind you, you have to have a bit of both. You cannot just be good in talking and no good in your job, or vice versa. But you have to identify something. That is one, the path that you take. And the other is how well you execute it. If you want to be known to be a very good in your job, then you make sure that you are really good in your job. It cannot be that you claim, but you are not really what you claim to be. So execution is very important, whether it is in a corporate or whether it is in a personal life. So these are some very important messages that are coming through, you know, from beginning, you know, teamwork, innovation, communication skills in English, differentiation, focus, and so on and so forth, right? And we'll now take one last question. We move over everything from industry. Where is Anurani? Is she here? Maybe you can read out the question.
Good afternoon, sir. What is ethics according to you? And can you share some challenging situation where your ethical values were tested?
These are tough questions.
Again, are you talking about his personal life or about Cognizant?
Both.
Ethics are, the value systems that you have sort of inculcated in yourself, and whatever you do, it should be beyond question, right? In terms of moral standards, right? So the values that you imbibe, have inculcated, it's very, very important, and you have to believe in those, and it should reflect in whatever you do, right? You should never ever compromise, right? As Mr. Ramaswamy was, it's now firmly etched in my mind. His grandfather used to advise him. It seems if you compromise once, or if you favor one individual, you will be probably, creating 1,000 enemies. It's better to not favor anything or compromise anything. So don't ever compromise on the standards that you have set for yourself, and believe in the values that have been taught to you, and live up to those values. Never ever compromise. So values and ethics is binary. It's 0 or 1. There's never in between. Right? So as long as you live up to your values, you will always be successful.
So thank you very much, Mr. Chandrasekaran.
Yeah. So if you ask me whether I have been tested, question of testing never comes, because I never ever give room for being tested on values and ethics.
So does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. So now we come to the conclusion of this session. Thank you all the students of first year MBA and MCA who are here. Thanks to all the others, my faculty colleagues, the distinguished alumni award recipients, our chairman, and everybody else. I think all of you have benefited, and I do hope you will remember and take forward and execute some of the advice that he has given you, be it focus, be it teamwork, right? Be it reading, that is very important, be it being ethical in life, be it about communication skills in English, and so on and so forth. Please try to remember and execute them. And of course, we have learned a lot from you, Mr. Chandrasekaran, on different dimensions, starting with your own personal life and your take on various issues, about Cognizant in particular, about the IT sector in general, about NASSCOM, about the global economy, and so on and so forth. And I think we are much richer intellectually than what we were before we came into this session. Now we reach the conclusion of this, and I would request our chairman, Mr. Ramaswamy, to present a small memento as an appreciation of everything.
Just one final word of advice. This is something that I tell everybody. You have to be passionate in whatever you do. If you are passionate about something, then you feel happy about doing that. That's very close to your heart. So follow your heart, be passionate. On many occasions, you don't know what your passion is. Then seize the opportunities that comes your way. Start enjoying what you do. Probably that will actually drive passion. But ultimately, passion is what is going to drive you, and that's what is going to make you successful. So, thank you for this interaction. Thank you. Well, thank you.